Under the canopy of a sprawling banyan tree, Buddha sat, his gaze calm and his presence serene. His disciples surrounded him, their eyes reflecting a mixture of devotion and curiosity. Buddha raised his hand, signaling silence, and began to speak in a voice gentle yet profound. The roots of discontent lie deep within the hearts of humankind, Buddha said, pausing as his words settled. It is not wealth nor power that quenches the thirst of the restless mind, but understanding and clarity. Buddha gazed at the disciples before continuing. Let me share the story of a farmer named Anand, whose lesson I once witnessed directly. The group leaned in closer, as if Buddha's words would reveal the answers they long sought. Anand owned a field that provided enough grain for him and his family to live with simplicity and sufficiency. However, Anand would gaze at the abundant fields of his neighbors with envy, and his heart grew heavy with dissatisfaction. Buddha's voice carried both compassion and a firm note of truth. This seed of envy took root and grew into deep discontent. Anand would ask himself, "Why is my harvest not as bountiful?" These thoughts consumed him, day and night. Eventually, Anand made the decision to abandon his field, embarking on a journey in search of greener pastures. He believed that somewhere, a perfect land existed, free from toil and disappointment. Buddha paused, letting his words linger like ripples over still water. On his journey, Anand encountered harsh conditions. His provisions dwindled, and hunger gnawed at his body and spirit. One evening, as he wandered aimlessly, Anand came across a wise hermit meditating under a lone tree. Curious, he approached and shared his plight. He poured out his sorrows, speaking of the elusive prosperity he sought. The hermit listened with quiet patience, his eyes reflecting deep understanding. After a long silence, he spoke. The pursuit of something better blinds many, Anand. Buddha waited patiently, his presence steadfast, and I opened my eyes to meet his knowing gaze. Master, these attachments emerge from fear of change and resistance to letting go, I admitted humbly. Convinced his mission held purpose, he continued his search. Buddha's voice softened. Months turned into years. The seasons changed, and Anand, still searching, grew weary. One day, his strength failed him, and he collapsed at the edge of an unfamiliar village. The villagers tended to him with kindness, offering food and shelter. Anand spoke of his endless journey, his search for an elusive ideal. A kind elder among them spoke to Anand. Your journey reminds me of a proverb. Happiness is not found afar, but within. Anand, humbled and reflective, decided to return home. When he reached his old field, the sight disheartened him. The land had become overgrown, choked with weeds. The barn stood empty, and the soil was parched. Anand wept for the years he had lost chasing illusions. He grasped, at last, the wisdom he had dismissed before. Buddha's eyes met those of his disciples, each one hanging on his every word. He began to work on his fields anew, with gratitude for the opportunity to restore them. His heart softened, no longer yearning for what others possessed. Over time, the field blossomed once more, and Anand's family thrived. But this time, he looked upon the land with contentment and gratitude. Through his toil, he realized the futility of comparison and the richness of his own blessings. He learned that contentment begins not in possessions, but in perspective. Buddha's voice took on a resonant timbre as he concluded. Anand's journey mirrors the journey of all beings. We too wander, chasing dreams born of restless desires. He continued, but the truth, my dear disciples, is that liberation from discontent does not lie in acquiring, but in understanding impermanence. One disciple raised a hand tentatively. Master, how do we cultivate this understanding of impermanence? Buddha smiled gently. Meditate on the transient nature of the world. Watch the rise and fall of every moment without attachment. He placed his hands together in a gesture of blessing. When you embrace impermanence, discontent fades, and the heart finds peace in simply being present. The banyan tree above seemed to sway in agreement, its leaves murmuring in the breeze. Another day, another dawn stretched across the hills, gilding the valleys with gentle light as the disciples gathered beside Buddha. His presence radiated tranquility, as though rooted in the earth itself, yet boundless, unconfined by the limitations of time. Buddha, observing this, added a final thought: do not see Anand's errors as separate from yourselves. Each one of you carries within the seeds of discontent, but like Anand, Buddha said, you also hold the capacity to transform envy into gratitude, and restlessness into contentment. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, the disciples bowed deeply, their hearts resolved to meditate on the lessons they had received. Buddha sat in stillness, the embodiment of the wisdom he had shared. The banyan tree stood witness to a moment of transformation, its ancient roots mirroring the depth of Buddha's timeless teachings. Another day dawned, the golden sun illuminating the monastery where Buddha rested beneath the sheltering arms of a mighty tree. A disciple, his face lined with inner struggle, spoke hesitantly, "Master, I feel consumed by ill will." "The path to inner balance lies within the choices we make each day," he began, his voice steady and calm. "Let me tell you the story of a musician named Saran, whose search for harmony became a lesson for all," Buddha said. Saran was a talented lute player who longed for mastery, practicing tirelessly yet finding discord in his performances. He would tune his lute strings tight, hoping for a clear sound, only to hear them snap under the strain. Disappointed, Saran loosened his strings to avoid breakage, but his lute produced nothing but faint whispers of sound. Frustrated, he sought out Buddha, hoping to learn the secret to harmony from his wisdom. Saran approached Buddha one quiet evening, his lute strapped to his back and his heart heavy with despair. He bowed deeply, offering his respect, and explained his predicament with earnest words. Buddha listened with patience and asked, "What do you seek, Saran? Harmony with the lute or harmony within yourself?" Saran paused, his thoughts tumbling over one another. "I believe I seek both, Master, yet I do not know how to achieve either." Buddha gestured for Saran to sit and observed his troubled expression with compassion. "Tell me, Saran, what happens when your strings are tightened too much?" Saran answered quickly, "They break, leaving me unable to play." Buddha nodded slowly. "And what occurs when they are loosened too much?" "They falter, producing no sound of worth," Saran replied, lowering his gaze as understanding began to dawn within him. Buddha placed his hand gently on the lute and spoke, "The path to harmony lies not in extremes, Saran, but in balance. Life itself resembles the strings of your lute," Buddha continued. "Too tight, and it snaps. Too loose, and it falters. To find balance is to find harmony." He shared the tale of a potter who mended his broken jars, turning them into vessels of beauty and utility. Just as the potter restored the jars, the Buddha said, "Restore your own heart, and it will overflow with kindness." Saran began to strum the lute, and for the first time, its sound filled the air with flawless resonance. The melody flowed effortlessly, echoing with beauty and grace under the evening sky. It is the strength that heals and unites, transcending divisions and fostering unity. The forest thrummed with life, the rustling leaves and chirping birds seeming to echo the Buddha's teachings. "I thank you," Buddha smiled, his gaze warm. "This balance you have found with your lute must also be sought in life, Saran. It is the middle way." He turned to the gathered disciples and spoke, "The middle way avoids the trap of excess and deficiency, leading to equanimity." Buddha continued, "Those who cling to material wealth suffer from overindulgence. Those who deny all pleasures may suffer from deprivation. Balance is essential. A disciple asked softly, Master, how do we know when we have found balance? Is it always clear? Buddha replied, balance manifests as inner peace. When neither attachment nor aversion dominates, the mind becomes like still water reflecting the moon. Another disciple questioned, but Master, what if circumstances pull us toward extremes? How do we resist this pull? Buddha's tone remained steady. Through mindfulness, observe each moment with awareness and adjust your actions to align with the middle way. He pointed to a nearby river flowing gently through the valley. See the river, my disciples. It does not rush fiercely, nor does it stagnate. It flows steadily, finding its path to the ocean. Buddha explained, our lives must resemble this river. Steady, gentle, adaptable, and balanced. It nourishes all it touches. One disciple hesitated before speaking. Master, I fear I may fail to follow the middle way. Doubts cloud my thoughts. Buddha approached the disciple and placed a hand on his shoulder. Doubt is natural, yet remember that balance is not perfection but practice. He emphasized, each day brings new opportunities to walk the middle way. Failure is but a step, not the end. Buddha sat once more, his posture straight and his voice unwavering. The middle way is not rigid but flexible, bending like bamboo in the wind. He said gently, to find balance requires patience and persistence. Like the steady rhythm of Saran's lute. As the evening descended, the disciples reflected deeply on the story of Saran and the lesson of the middle way. Buddha's words resonated within them, illuminating paths they had yet to tread. The flame of wisdom lit by Buddha's teachings danced in their hearts, guiding their journey toward inner balance. Buddha rested beneath the tree, his presence embodying the harmony he had shared with his disciples. Another day emerged, with the sun casting golden beams across the verdant forest where Buddha and his disciples resided. Another day unfolded, and the disciples assembled, eager for Buddha's guidance, their spirits thirsting for deeper wisdom and clarity. Buddha's gaze held a deep kindness as he addressed them. Compassion is the key to liberation from suffering, he began. Let me share with you a tale of transformation born through the act of selfless compassion. Buddha spoke of a destitute man named Rajan, who lived isolated in a crumbling hut by the edge of a village. Rajan's life was marked by bitterness, his heart weighed down by endless grievances and a growing disdain for others. Rajan saw the villagers as obstacles, Buddha said. He blamed them for his plight and withdrew into a cocoon of resentment and despair. One evening, a fierce storm erupted, sending torrential rains cascading over the landscape, the river swelling to dangerous heights. In the midst of the downpour, Rajan heard the cries of a young child drifting through the turmoil. He peered outside and saw a girl caught in the river's current, her small hands clutching at a fragile branch. For a moment, Rajan hesitated, the weight of his bitterness holding him back. But a surge of compassion ignited in his heart, overpowering his reluctance. Without thought for his own safety, he plunged into the raging waters. His arms cutting through the torrent, Rajan reached the girl, grasping her tightly as he fought against the powerful current. Straining with every ounce of his strength, he brought her safely to the shore. Exhausted yet relieved, Rajan cradled the child as she wept softly, her gratitude shining in her tearful eyes. The villagers gathered, their admiration and appreciation flowing toward Rajan like the river had flowed moments earlier. Buddha said, this was the first time in years Rajan felt the warmth of connection, the joy of contributing to another's well-being. Buddha's eyes swept across his disciples. Through that single act of compassion, Rajan broke free from the chains of resentment that imprisoned him. The disciples leaned in as Buddha's voice softened. Compassion dissolves the barriers we construct around ourselves. revealing the interconnected nature of existence. One disciple spoke hesitantly, "Master, if compassion is so powerful, why do many struggle to embrace it fully in their lives?" Buddha met the disciple's gaze, his expression tranquil yet penetrating. The mind is often clouded by the illusion of separateness. It clings to self-centered desires and fears. He explained further, "Compassion arises when the self dissolves, and we see the suffering of others as inseparable from our own." Buddha continued, "To nurture compassion, begin with small acts of kindness, letting them grow like seeds into flourishing trees." Another disciple asked, "Master, how do we balance compassion for others with care for ourselves, without depleting our strength?" Buddha replied, "Self-compassion and compassion for others are not separate. Caring for yourself sustains your ability to serve others. Imagine a lamp," Buddha said. "Its light brightens the surroundings yet remains unaffected. A heart filled with compassion is like that lamp." His words resonated deeply as the disciples reflected on their understanding of compassion in their lives. Buddha shared another story, this one of an elderly woman named Kamala who lived at the edge of a bustling city. Kamala had little wealth, yet she spent her days weaving baskets and gifting them to anyone in need. Kamala's compassion was boundless, Buddha said, even when she faced hardships. Her joy in giving never faltered. One day, a traveler approached Kamala, curious about her seemingly endless generosity. Despite her limited means, the traveler asked, "Why do you give so much when you have so little?" Kamala smiled and answered, "When I give, I receive far more in return. Compassion enriches my spirit beyond material wealth." Her words echo the universal truth, Buddha remarked. Compassion does not deplete, it replenishes. It turns suffering into strength, fear into courage. Buddha emphasized, to cultivate compassion is to liberate yourself and others from the cycle of suffering. A disciple raised a hand and asked, "Master, how do we respond to those who reject our compassion or act with hostility?" Buddha's gaze remained calm. True compassion expects no reward or recognition. It flows freely, like the river waters nourishing even the stones, even when met with hostility. Compassion transforms the giver, Buddha continued. It is the act itself that liberates, not the response. He added, compassion is not weakness but strength, a force that overcomes division and illuminates the darkest moments. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Buddha spoke once more. Rajan's bitterness dissolved through a single act of selflessness. Kamala's joy was sustained by her boundless giving. To find true contentment, open your heart to compassion, Buddha said. It is through serving others that we find liberation and peace. His disciples bowed deeply, their hearts filled with resolve to embody the teachings they had received. Buddha sat quietly as dusk embraced the monastery, his presence radiating the light of wisdom and boundless compassion. The day faded into night, but the seeds of compassion he had sown continued to grow in the hearts of his disciples. Master, does this mean the flames teach us to accept both loss and renewal? Yes, the Buddha said. Loss and renewal are two faces of life's truth. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.